positive feedback loop, the etheric feedback loop that I have when I put in the Tachyon supercharger a couple of weeks ago. Since that time, I'm muscle testing that the power of that pump has enhanced the water tremendously, so that I'm not drinking as much water as I was before, because their water is so chock full of energy, so powerful, that you only have to just take whatever you need because it's just so incredibly powerful. And so what is happening is that I'm not only picking up power off of the water, but I'm saturating myself to a higher and higher level, which allows me to have a bank, a reserve that I didn't have when I first started. And that reserve is increasing all the time as I'm checking the pendulum and muscle testing myself, and also feeling myself generally. The power level is going right through the ceiling, and I don't mean that figuratively. I mean it, and that's what it feels like. So what I believe is going to happen for the people that are on the water, that are willing to continue to do what they're supposed to do, which is take a lot of it on a regular basis, is they're going to see a really significant change in their vitality, and that's basically our goal. What I'm trying to do at 63 years of age is to have a wonderful, complete life. I don't want to fall apart. I don't want to become senile. I don't want to become immobile. I want to get more and more and more powerful all the time. And there are cases where this has happened in history. There have been instances, which some of you may have read about it, with Saint Germain and people like that, who had access to technologies that were grossly inferior to what we have here. And so I believe that we are in the process of producing an entirely different way of looking at things. The reward going to the older person, not the younger person. The advantage going to the older person and not the younger person. And I think that over a period of the next several decades, this is going to be recognized, and it's going to be a whole different way of looking at things. Senior citizens aren't going to be looked at as somebody that produces Soylent Green. They're going to be looked at like they used to be, as the sages, as the elders, that allow people to tap in to this tremendous experience that they've seen and observed and felt over a period of time, rather than somebody that's not young and therefore not useful, which is the paradigm right now. I think we're going to produce something that's going to cause them to change significantly. And in doing so, a total paradox occurs. Age being more powerful, not less. Age being more energetic and not less. And age being more creative and productive and not less. So that's my goal. It's called self-preservation for Bill Kirkland. And by golly, I'll be happy to let you have it too, at what I think is a very, very fair rate of return. Kevin?
Yeah, that was excellent. The other thing that while I was hearing you talk, the one thing I noticed also, I started exercising again, and so now I'm running and doing all these things, but I noticed the mobility of my body is changing. It's becoming more flexible and dynamic, to a point like I'm more flexible than I've ever been in my life. The connective tissue was loosening up. There were certain parts of my body which were always locked down tight, and that's opening up. The head is shifting. Everything's sort of moving. It's almost like if you just keep pushing the energy into the system, the body not only does it self-corrects, and it's self-correcting according to some original template, which I know I never had in my life. I came in flawed. There were physical flaws. And the body is now moving back into this, call it a divine template, etheric blueprint. If someone loses an arm, they still feel it because there's an etheric blueprint there. And they have technologies where you can actually regrow hands and arms now by inducing current, and you can literally regrow, body parts eventually by applying current, and eventually the blueprint takes the energy in and it evolves. and it regrows the arm or leg or whatever. And, so this is just more of the same thing. So if you apply enough energy, to me, it's all lack of power. So you apply enough energy to a system, it's going to reformulate back to where you were, and then it's going to actually open up more and more. So you have all this latent DNA stuff, the junk DNA. That stuff's starting to turn on in ways, the spirituality is growing, starting to get really psychic. And it's just happening naturally. And so there's these other recombination effects taking place. Why? There's just more energy in the system. The energy is put to work immediately. It doesn't just sit there like a battery being stored. It's put to work by the body. The body says, oh, we have all this abundance here. Let's use it. And it begins to get comfortable with the idea that there's a lot of energy around, and it opens up. Opening up process is letting go of fear. I no longer am afraid that the world is going to crumble. I'm no longer Chicken Little, that the sky's going to fall. So I'm relaxing into life, even though on the outside things may appear to be falling apart, but on the inside they're actually growing and changing for the better. And so my external world is now reflecting the internal changes. One of the things, like the idea of age reversal is such a new concept that no one really still does believe it. First manifestation, of course, was like a film like Benjamin Button that came out this year. Basically showed in film someone reversing their age. Like it instilled that concept of age reversal. One of the problems is we believe we have to die so we comply with the program. And so by applying enough energy, we no longer believe that this thing is fixed. It's not fixed. Everything's mutable. DNA is mutable. That's what science is telling us. It's a program. The codes can be changed. They've been able to change frogs into salamanders. They've been able to do that with lasers. Well, if they can do that with lasers, you can do virtually anything. They've been able to take adult cells and reverse them back to stem cell states, and they can turn into different cells. You can do all sorts of crazy things. They have a jellyfish. There's one species of jellyfish which reaches maturity and then regresses back to youth, and then it reaches maturity and it stays in a cycle, so it always stays in a state of perpetual youth. It's an animal found in nature that's immortal. Well, if it can be done in simple organisms, eventually it will be done in more complex organisms because it's the same mechanism at work. There's no difference. There was a turtle found by some ancient Chinese dynasty, and he had a plaque on his back, and they found him recently a couple of years ago, and it turns out he was 2,000 years old, that turtle. The turtle had become virtually immortal. There are things that go on that are outside the limits of what our perception are, and just because we don't see them doesn't mean they're not possible, they don't exist. And so now we're moving beyond the range of our limits into an unknown territory, and we're doing that as a species. But some of us are seeing it before the others. They're seeing around the curve. They're seeing around the possibilities. They're seeing all these unlimited possibilities now. And that's all because we're actually accumulating energy. As you rise up in energy, the world just opens up. And so many different things are hidden within certain frequency bands that we just are not sensitive enough to see. And so it's like things are right in front of me. I never knew it, now they just pop out of thin air. It's like the gold that is lying within your coat that you never knew was there. And hidden talents come out, personalities blossom, high energy states, your negative parts of your personalities drop. That is just the byproduct of living in high energy. You don't have to work for these things. They just simply are a state of your being. They're your birthright in a lot of ways. And we haven't experienced this in an awful long time, and now I really do believe we have an opportunity to experience a world beyond your wildest dreams on levels that were unimaginable even 5 years ago, 3 years ago. That's all I have to say.
I would just say for myself that I'm watching the technology unfold like the rest of you. As you pick up the energy, the possibilities begin to multiply and then move ahead exponentially. When I developed this technology almost 3 years ago now, I had no idea what I had. I just knew I felt a lot better whenever I put myself on distance energy. Real simple. That was it. I felt better. I kept turning the energy up. And then I felt better than that. So I turned the energy up and added some more